Hello, everyone. Welcome. It is the Our Turf Football Podcast. I am Dayna O'Gorman. This is Kate Arhar, and we are Our Turf Football. Okay, missing a couple people. And the reason that we're missing them was Lisa has a farm now. And so she's busy and has jobs and things that she has to do. But we understand that, of course. But more importantly, Sonia's not here because today is Sonia's birthday. And I want everyone to get online, go wish Sonia happy birthday. Tell her that that you missed her, and I'm sure she will be back again next week. It's going to be very, very fun. All right. We want to start this week's show, of course, with our sponsor. We really appreciate Donkey's Cheesesteaks for sponsoring us again this season. They can have 3 locations. They have locations in Medford, they have Mount Holly and Camden. And please, and this is all in New Jersey. I'm afraid that sometimes we forget to say the New Jersey part. So I think it's important that we do that. New Jersey people, New Jersey cheesesteaks. That's where we're at. So go check them out. All right. This weekend was interesting, Kate. It was an interesting weekend. There was a lot of ups and downs. I called this week a roller coaster, I think is what I called it. We saw a lot of really strong comebacks and interesting stuff. And we saw some complete and total meltdowns. But I want to give you a few little tidbits. This is what the NFL sends us after every weekend. They send us kind of like some of the information, like weird stats and crap like that, which we love. Thank you so very much. But this one was interesting to me. Baltimore's Lamar Jackson last week became the first player in the NFL history to record both a rushing touchdown and a touchdown pass of at least 75 yards in the same game. And they lost, right? And they lost. So that was kind of in a nutshell, what happened this weekend. Let me see. Any other interesting ones? Dolphins quarterback Tua. We are going to talk a lot about the Dolphins today. Oh, I have to go find Lisa's. Lisa sent me a whole thing to read about the Dolphins. God love her. She's just the best, of course. He leads the NFL with 739 passing yards. We all called that, right? We all knew that was going to happen. And Miami ranks first in the AFC with 427 yards. It just goes on and on and on. I want to talk a little bit about that fight in Tampa Bay because God love Mike Evans. You know what, Mike Evans, if you are going to get suspended and you're going to get suspended, make it count. Don't just push him, right? Don't you agree, Kate?
Yes. Yeah. Gloves off, helmets off, start swinging. If you're gonna pay the penalty, own the crime.
Pay-per-view or something. Seriously, yeah. It's just nuts. Yes. So this was a very interesting week in football. I mean, obviously, but Kate, I think we need to start with the Cleveland Browns. Yeah. So Cleveland Browns had an interesting game. It wasn't what we expected this week, was it?
No. We play the schedule game here in Cleveland, as many of y'all do, and we had this Jets game as a win. And up until the 2-minute warning, looked like it was going to be a win. But what I saw this week was the same thing I saw in the Carolina game. In the Carolina game, the defense just completely, let go in the final minutes of the game and almost lost week 1. And this week, they did. They gave up a 13-point lead with 2 minutes left. Fun fact, the last time a team gave up that many, that big of a lead in the final 2 minutes of a game was a 14-point lead given up by the Cleveland Browns to the Chicago Bears in 2001. Ended up getting that game tied, and then in overtime, the Bears won. And it's something like 2,239 consecutive games where a team was up double digits at the 2-minute warning, and they ended up winning. That streak was broken by the Browns this week. It's just what gets me is the people on Twitter who say things like, well, if Cade York hadn't missed that extra point after the touchdown, it would have been a tie. Or if Nick Chubb had not scored that last touchdown and had fallen on like the 1-yard line, we could have run out the clock. No. Your defense should be able to hold a 13-point lead for 2 minutes. You gave up a touchdown with blown coverage in the secondary. You lost the onside kick. and then you gave up another one. I mean, it was a shameful display by the secondary. And what makes it the good and bad of that is we play on Thursday. We play the Pittsburgh Steelers on Thursday. So it's either you've only got 3 days to fix what you did wrong, or you've only got 3 days to dwell on it and then get it out of your head because you've got division rival on Thursday Night Football. So I don't know what they're going to do. There were some good things. Jacoby Brissett looked really good. I was sketchy on him week one, which, just to explain the braids, I watched the week one game from a bar in Jamaica.
Oh, well, we feel so terrible for you.
I know, but we got home on Sunday, so I got to watch this week's from home. Maybe I should leave the country and they'll get more wins. There was a lot of concern about Jacoby Brissett as our quarterback after week one. He did not look good, and people were already clamoring for Dobbs. But he looked really good this week. He had like a 108 quarterback rating. Nick Chubb had a ton of yards, and he looked really good. It was just the defense just completely. I don't know how you have a mental collapse like that in the final 2 minutes. It's not even like penalties or somebody got hurt and a key player was out. It was just blown coverage by the secondary.
I read that a couple places that said that this was the defense. This sat on the defensive shoulders. And that's really kind of what you saw here. I agree with you about Brissett, though. I've liked Jacoby Brissett. I've talked about how I've liked him for years. I think that he does not quite get the credit that he deserves. He's not an elite quarterback, but he's not a terrible quarterback, right? And so I think
he's not. I was okay with him if it was a 6-week suspension.
Right.
I'm concerned about 11 games.
Right.
I'm concerned that he can sustain something for 11 games, but apparently now I need to be more concerned that the defense can play 60 minutes.
That's a good point. But here's the thing. This was also, we can't discount what the Jets did here because it was impressive, how they came back. There's a lot of people who didn't believe this Jets team would do anything this year, right? Like at all, that they would just kind of maybe get a marginally better, but not make a jump. And this game showed me that they, first of all, will fight all the way to the end of the game, which is impressive. They didn't just say, screw it, we're done. And that they have more talent than we gave them credit for on that team. So I think that we're not trying to take away what the Jets did by saying that the Browns fell apart, but the Browns fell apart. They were not alone, though.
They were not. And to your point, I give Robert Saleh and the Jets a lot of credit. They could have given up with, being down that much with 2 minutes. They could have, even after the touchdown to go for the 2-point conversion, or the onside kick. Like there was no hesitancy. They didn't just go through the motions and just assume they were going to lose it. And they fought every second of that game. And for me, that kind of attitude from a team is coaching, because we owned them for that whole game. They pulled a couple plays out of, and kept it close for a little bit. But we owned them for that entire game, and they never once quit. I don't know what to tell you when we look at what happened with Miami and Baltimore. The fact that Baltimore gave up 42 points. I don't know that I was surprised that Miami won. I was more surprised that it was 42 to 38. Was that 70 points? I didn't think those teams were capable of putting up that many points.
Well, I knew that the Ravens might be able to. I did not know Tua had that in him. And then to have both Waddle and Tyreek Hill just absolutely destroy that secondary of the Ravens. When you think of the Baltimore Ravens, I think of them as a defensive team who was a really great, quarterback.
Yep.
This was almost, it felt like a team that leaned way too much on their quarterback, and he responded, but they forgot that their defense, much like the Browns, had to play too. And they just let it go. I will tell you, when I saw that game, because I wasn't home and I was kind of going through things on my phone, I was like, I'm sorry, what just happened? It was baffling to me. It was impressive and confusing all at the same time. I want to read this. So hold on just 1 second. I'm going to pull this up from Lisa. Lisa was so sad she was not going to be here that she asked if she could send a statement. And so I said, well, of course you can, Pumpkin. So let me go ahead and pull that up. Hold up just 1 second. I think I have it on this one. I'm so sorry. I have it, Lisa. I swear. I told you I would not forget you. All right. So this is Lisa's statement. And you can hear her voice. That's what's okay. So it says, on the Dolphins' tremendous comeback victory Sunday against the Baltimore Ravens, one thought I had while I rewatched this game was actually, no, it was two thoughts. I told you it sounded just like her. The first one is, I'm going to be absolutely giddy while I listen to Dayna read this statement. The second, and hopefully she says this loud enough for the people in the back, defense wins championships in my eye. Kate, what just happened? I brought her to the dark side, Kate. I brought her to the dark side. Okay. So
this it's not like Miami played really good defense. They gave up 38 points. What's interesting to me is the way Miami won this game, and it was all in the air. Tua threw for like 470 yards, and 370 of those yards went to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
Oh my God!
They didn't. I don't know that they had 100 yards rushing as a team. I think Mostert had 50. I mean, they clearly did it all in the air, and it was almost like they were daring the Ravens to stop them.
Right.
And they couldn't.
They couldn't. Hold on. I'm not done. It's much longer. Hold on.
Oh, is there more?
This comeback speaks volumes of what fans might expect to see this year. The NFL saw three teams, the Jets, Dolphins, and Cardinals, pulling out wins while being down 2 scores or more. Weak defense or strong offense, I ask you, she says. Sorry, I love you, Lisa. It's awesome. We're going to see strong offensive teams take this year's championships and possibly many more years to come. So say it with me now. Offenses win championships. No, they don't. They don't. Good defenses stop good offenses. That's the way it works. Have a great show, she says. And she's sorry she had to miss it. I love Lisa. Look, she bait and switches me. She does it all the time. But I want to say this. Our good friend Graham, he says he's here representing the Dolphins, Lisa, as he always does. Love it. So it is fascinating to me, one, how this game played out. And then it was so high scoring, the impressiveness that we saw out of Tua, because we had not seen that from him before. And I will say, there was this great article today, Kate. You know, you guys all know now, if you pay any attention to me, I call Mike McDaniels Hipster Homebrewer. So Hipster Homebrewer said, was questioned about, how he felt his team played and everything. And of course, he's just gushing as much as Hipster Homebrewer gushes. But in the article, someone was quoted, and I think it was like a front office personnel from another team or something. And it said, it looked like Mike McDaniels was out there playing Madden. And that is what it looked like. It looked like that he was just like, screw it. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. And I think that's how this Dolphin team is going to run the whole season.
Yeah, I mean, Tua ended up with the 134 quarterback rating, which is amazing, except Lamar Jackson's was 149. I mean, Lamar had an amazing game. He ran for 120 yards. He threw 3 touchdowns. I mean, to put that kind of effort forth and still lose is just it was an insane game. I did not expect I didn't expect that much scoring from either of them. While I have concerns long term about Miami's offense, I thought their defense would be okay if they didn't get too tired. So that's why I didn't think the Baltimore would be putting up, 38 points. But it was a fun game to watch for me as a Browns fan, because every single team in the AFC North lost this week.
Well, there you go. See, it all worked out for you.
I'm like, all right, if we're all gonna, but I think for both teams, for the Browns and the Ravens, this game may come back to haunt them at the end of the season, because this division should be tight, and those both are games that those teams should have won, and those losses could be the difference between them making the playoffs or not.
Right. So another little interesting stat that came out, it said a quarter of the teams that finished last season with 4 or fewer wins, Detroit, Jacksonville, the Giants, and the Jets, all have an opportunity to start 2-1 or better. And that has not happened in 21 years. That is, when people don't believe in the parity of the NFL, I point them to things like that. It really does. Teams have the opportunity to get better. It's just how the team is run. And sometimes it takes 21 years, people. But I will tell you, it does seem to work out pretty. I just thought that was so fascinating, that these teams, and that's what we're going to move to next. We're going to talk about some surprising teams. I want to do the 0-2 teams first, or 0-2 teams second. We're going to do the 2-0 teams first. I can't think of another team, Kate, that is more surprising to me being 2-0 than the New York Giants. I said this to everyone in our preseason prediction show that I really felt because it has to be past tense now, that by week 4 to 6, Jimmy Garoppolo was going to be the starting quarterback in New York. I thought that they would have enough of Daniel Jones that they would then go after Jimmy. Obviously, that's not happening now with the injury to Trey Lance, and Jimmy got his job back real quick. But I am so surprised at how well this team is playing. And I think, in my opinion, it all sits on Saquon Barkley's shoulders and him staying healthy. This team might be pretty good. They're awful gutsy. I'll give them that.
Yeah, they're kind of flying under the radar right now. They're kind of keeping their heads down, and they're just quietly winning games. I'm more surprised by the Dolphins being 2-0.
Really?
Because of their schedule. I didn't think they'd get past the Ravens. Fair. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But the Giants are clearly the big surprise at 2-0. We'll see if they can sustain it. They're the Eagles and the Giants both 2-0, and then you've got the Bills and Dolphins both. So it's interesting that you've got two divisions with two teams at 2-0 that I didn't think would be competing for the division. And I know it's week 2, and we always talk.
We're going to talk about that later.
1 through 6 really mean nothing. Everyone's just shaking the rust off, and don't write a team off if they're 0-2. It also means 2-0 teams aren't going to the Super Bowl necessarily. So, fair. But it is still. Winning cures everything. And when you're a team that won 4 or less games last year, to start the season 2-0, there's just no way to measure the mental impact that has. That, look, we can win. We're a team. We're together. And it gets rid of a lot of those petty things that go on in locker rooms and those things that go on in the guys' heads that get in their way on the field. And it's a huge mental jump for teams like the Giants, and I'll say it, the Dolphins, to start 2-0. And to feel good about themselves going into the rest of the season.
They talk about that a lot, about how in sports psychology and that sort of thing, that losing seeps into a player. And then it's like, most of the time, unconsciously, they're like, well, why try extra hard if we're not going to bother to win? And that winning is a little addictive. And that people work harder for it, and they will work harder for it. And I'm not saying that those teams didn't work hard last year. It's a mentality thing. And so I think it's fascinating that to see what those teams will take and run with it. The Giants, especially the Dolphins. I think the other teams, the Eagles, the Bills, and the Chiefs, no one is surprised at that.
Tampa Bay.
I will tell you, right. And let me tell you this. I was very surprised at that Eagles Minnesota game on Monday, like last night. That is not what I expected to happen. I had much more faith in Minnesota, and I still do. I still think that they will shake. I think that they put all their eggs in that week 1 basket, and now that one was kind of their game, but it was impressive, and it was surgical, and it was beautiful. And I had the Eagles winning this division, but I just was really impressed at how strong they came out.
How is a big deal. And I'm kind of glad Lisa's not here, or we'd have to hear about Jalen Hurts and how amazing he is and how she told us so. And yeah.
Well, she's not really wrong, because she did tell us so, but
she did.
At the same time, I want to hear about it, Lisa. I want to hear about it for sure. I don't know. I think that there's those teams that we just didn't, we are surprised by. And then there's teams that you totally expected. And even though, and I said this earlier today, even in those teams that are 2-0, you could see the pendulum swing. You could see they're good. You could see they're bad. I think even the Chiefs, they won, but you could see moments where like, oh, that team looks beatable. Do you know what I mean? They didn't look super crisp. That is because it's early in the season. It's stuff like that is early in the season. The same, I'm sorry. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think, are ranked like 3rd or 4th in the power rankings this week, and I would not put them there. I don't think that team looks like they have it together at all. They just happen to be able to win those games. And so much like Denver this last week. They didn't look like a great team, but they managed to win that game. And we're going to talk about Hackett later in the show. But I think that I wouldn't put them that high. And I think that of all of these teams right now, that one looks real shaky, but it's week 2. Let's see what kind of happens in rolls.
Yeah. And looking at the 2-0 teams, literally the only one to me that feels like they've owned weeks 1 and 2 are the Bills. There's been no doubt. No doubt. I saw that comment.
Lisa just popped in our live chat. She said she's on a break at work and wanted to know if I read her statement. Yes, Lisa, I read your statement and you're wrong. Defense wins championships, but I love you because you can't answer back now. So yes, I agree. Now let's flip the script a little bit. Let's look at these 0-2 teams. Let's look at these teams that seem to be struggling right now. And there's a couple surprises there too. So hold on, let me pull this up because I want to make sure I have this right. Let's see. I think we need to talk right now. We have to talk about the Titans. Yeah. We have to talk about that utter disaster. Oh, I pulled up the wrong one.
So what's interesting to me is there are 3 teams 0-2 in the AFC. And I was surprised at all 3. Okay. There are 2 teams that are 0-2 in the NFC, and it shouldn't shock anybody.
All right.
The Panthers and the Falcons shouldn't surprise anyone that they're 0-2. They're not good.
Can I say though, I was real impressed on that Falcons comeback.
I was too. I thought they were gonna do it.
I thought so too.
After the other things I'd seen this weekend, I thought they were gonna do it. They showed some life. I'll give them that.
I completely shot myself in the foot with that though, Kate. Let me tell you, because I put out this tweet. I'm like, well, Seattle lost. We knew Seattle was supposed to be bad this year. Good for them. So sorry about Trey Lance, whatever. But I'm very happy to watch the Falcons coming back on the Rams and this Arizona disaster. Both did not. It did not age well, people. I get it. I know. I already apologized. But yes, the Falcons, I don't think are a surprise. I think everyone knew that team would struggle this year.
But the AFC teams, the Titans, things are not good in Tennessee right now. The Raiders, which I think I picked them to win that division. I liked the Raiders this year. I've not been happy with them through 2 weeks. And the Bengals. And the Bengals went to the Super Bowl last year, people. And they're favored to win the AFC North, and they're 0-2.
Baffling to me. The Bengals look like they forgot how to play football sometimes.
Yes.
And I don't know how that happens in an offseason. Short offseason, yes. But you guys were just in the Super Bowl.
And you brought everybody back.
Yeah, and you
brought everybody back. You brought your coaches. You didn't have to learn nothing new.
You didn't have to learn nothing new. You sure didn't. Dang it anyway. Oh my gosh. That's hilarious.
Yeah. But I mean, I feel like the Raiders will figure it out and the Dolphins will figure it out. I'm baffled by the Texans, and I don't know if they'll figure it out or how long it will take them to figure it out, because they clearly can't just ride Derrick Henry, off into the sunset, because that's all defenses have to worry about right now. Tannehill has not looked like Tannehill. And I don't know if this is some kind of hangover from the end of the playoffs, the end of the year last year, or what, but baffling for me.
41-7. Like, it just hurts to say it. Because, once the Bills went down and scored, and then the Titans went down and scored, I'm like, oh, this can be good. This can be a good game. We're going to go back and forth. And then
and maybe it's my fault. It's my fault. Because I had Dak Prescott as my fantasy football quarterback, and he got hurt, and I picked up Ryan Tannehill this week.
Oh, well, we do blame you then. 11 for 20.
3 fantasy points.
Well, it's about how many Tom Brady got me. Don't even get me started.
Yeah.
So Ryan Tannehill, 11 for 20, 117 yards, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns.
Yeah. No.
I mean, it's just gross. And so then what they do? They benched him, brought in Malik Willis.
And how'd that work out for him?
1 of 4, 6 whole yards.
Yeah. So
just telling you. Yeah.
Vrabel needs to figure it out, and their coach, and he needs to nip something, whatever's going on.
Yards than Henry. It's Haskins, Henry, Malik Willis, and Ryan Tannehill. Those are their top rushers. For God's sake, it's just a disaster. It's just a disaster. And it seems to be getting worse, not better. So, yeah, I think there's going to have to be a massive overhaul. And I like Tannehill. I do not know that he survives the season. If they go, let's even say 5-1, or I'm sorry, 1-5. Why not start your rookie? Put him in, let him play, let him learn this year. You know what I mean? Let's see what he can do. Yeah, Lisa just called us fantasy football losers, and I don't like it when Lisa watches the show.
Did we boot her out of the chat room?
I know, for sure. All right. Yeah. So it's really interesting. Like you said, the Panthers we were ready for. My heart does break a little bit for Baker, but all right. Well,
and I feel bad for the Panthers and the Falcons, but I'm not shocked. They'll turn it around and they'll be okay. It was just, like I said, Raiders, Titans, and Bengals, I thought at worst would be 1-1. Did not see 0-2 for those teams.
I do think the Raiders are going to snap back. I think a lot of this is new coaching. I think a lot of this is chemistry between Adams and Carr. I think they'll get there. I think they've played some really good teams. And I think the Cardinals pulled a rabbit out of the hat this week. I don't think
they did.
The Cardinals are not a great football team. So they just managed to pull magic. They were not going to lose instead of just rolling over, which is fine and good for you, Kyler Murray, and Cliffy, but I don't think that's sustainable for them. And I think the Raiders slowed down. They were up 20. What was it? 20-0 at halftime. So they just took their foot off the gas and it got them. They won't do it again. They won't do it again. All right. So we want to move on. Kate and I decided that we were going to do a series starting this week about the new head coaches, how they were doing, how their teams were doing. And this is new to a team. We're not just talking about brand new first-time head coaches. We're going to talk about, the coaches in their new positions too. And we're going to start this week with the topic that everyone is talking about, and that's Nathaniel Hackett in Denver. Now, each week we're going to talk about one new one, so you'll get one a week. So this series will go through for a few weeks, but I want to start there. Week 1, Denver came into Seattle. It was a hugely emotional game for the Seahawks. It was hugely emotional for Russell Wilson. I was not surprised at that loss. I actually predicted that when we were doing our prediction show, I predicted them to win that game. I thought it might be one of the only games Seattle won this year, but I just felt like it was going to be overwhelming. And it seemed to be a little bit, plus the noise of the fans and all of that. But what we ended up seeing in that game was not just emotion. It was mistakes. It was big mistakes. The whole 64-yard field goal alone, how many times did that clock run out? Well, that was week 1. And so we're like, okay, he's got to get that shaken out. He'll be all right. He's just going to shake it out. And then what happened? Week 2, the exact same issues. Now, they did manage to pull out a win. And I will say, I'll put that on Russell Wilson's shoulders because he was not going to let this, start to define him. But that team is a mess right now, even though they managed to they beat the Texans, for God's sake. It's not like they, were conquering heroes over some big giant, juggernaut. It is scary to me for Denver fans in what we are seeing out of Hackett. Now, obviously, for people who don't know, Nathaniel Hackett came out of Green Bay. And there was this very interesting article I read that said, just because he came out of Green Bay doesn't mean that he's a great coach. You have Matt LaFleur, who is a offensive-minded head coach, basically ran that offense. And then you have Aaron Rodgers, who does whatever the hell Aaron Rodgers wants to do, right? So what did Nathaniel Hackett have to do? You know what I mean?
But he didn't come in to with Trevor Siemian as his quarterback. He's got Russell Wilson.
Right, but that doesn't mean that he knows how to manage a game. Because that's where the issues that we're seeing. It's not necessarily their offense looks kind of weird. I think that's going to be a pull, tug, back and forth between Russell and the rest of the team. And because he did say he was giving full reins to Russ. So I don't know how well that's working out for him. But it's little logical, head coaching thing. They didn't have a punt returner on the field. They had to use a timeout. He burns timeouts. There was who was it? Dang it. It was someone this morning who said the hallmark of a bad coach is burning through timeouts, and he burns through timeouts like crazy. Let me give you a couple of little stats here. They are averaging 12.5 penalties a game. 12.5 penalties a game. They had their fans counting down the clock. So many times they had, clock violations. The fans in Denver started counting the clock down. And poor Russ was asked about it. And he's like, well, yeah, I mean, I guess people do that. But no, they don't, baby. And you know it. Don't even try and hide for it. They didn't have the punt returner. They paid $245 million for a quarterback who had never been in a game for them. And assumed that he would come in and save the day, which worried a lot of people. And then they had the 64-yard field goal. Now, trying a 64-yard field goal at the end of the game, sure, but not when you have time on the clock and have a future Hall of Fame quarterback who can get you those 5 stinking yards. I don't know. I'm very worried, Kate, after 2 games for the Denver fan base.
Well, and the play calling, I mean, there's the game management, the clock management is troublesome. When you have a 3rd and 1 play, and instead of handing it off to your running back, Javonte Williams, who's averaging 5 yards a carry, you do some back sweep and give it to the tight end, Barry, his 2nd time touching a football in a game, and you need a yard. I'm like, okay, we'll skip over the questionable play calling and we'll go to your point. They don't have the right men on the field. They're wasting timeouts. And I've been through some bad coaches and I have wasted some timeouts in my years here in Cleveland. It's very worrisome to me as well. Very worrisome. Although I do find it interesting that in an interview, they asked Hackett what he thought about the fans booing him. And he's like, listen, I if I was in the stands, I'd be booing myself. Like he acknowledged this week that he didn't do well. But as I say sometimes to my children, it's okay for you to say you're sorry and to own when you did something wrong. You can't keep doing it, though. Right. At some point, you have to correct the behavior. You know what I mean? And week 7, week 8, and he's still apologizing and being, yeah, it's my bad. I sucked up the field today and I messed it up. Fans are not going to have that. And Denver fans are spoiled and emotional. And they will count down the play clock every weekend in Mile High Stadium. You will hear them count down the play clock until they figure it out. The penalties are, to me, a sign of being undisciplined. Okay. I don't know.
Well, here's part of it too. There was this great thing. And I'm telling you, I did a lot of reading about this because I struggle with if this was a 1st-year quarterback, we'd give him some room. We'd let him learn. But when you get to be a head coach, you're already supposed to have learned. You're supposed to be ready to take a team over. Right. And I don't think you can give, someone's like, we need to give him some grace. We need to give him a little elbow room because he's brand new. Well, but he's not brand new. He's been a coach. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Just not a head coach.
In the play calling, I might be giving him a little slack. You're learning your personnel. You got Russell.
Sure.
Clock management?
No.
You should know how to do that.
Field goals, I know. Have a punt returner on the field, for God's sake. And what are the rest of his coaches doing that they're allowing us to
Where's your special teams coach that he didn't have the right personnel on the field for that? You can push that off on him, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'm curious from your point of view. I know Russell at the end did not have the best relationship with Pete Carroll.
Right.
Is he coachable? Is he just going to listen to what Hackett tells him? Will he call his own plays under center if he thinks the play that comes into him is not the right call? Will he go cowboy with that?
Probably. So here's the thing. I think this is a little different because Pete was so defensive minded that I don't know. I think that he left a lot of that to the coordinators, but you have to look at how many coordinators did Seattle burn through because they couldn't make it work for Russ. Well, that's what we're going to learn over the next couple of years, right? Where that kind of blame lies. And the Seahawks fans were kind of laughing. They're like, for years we've been blaming Pete for having to call timeout when it gets down to 1 in the play clock and they're not even ready. Maybe that wasn't on Pete, and so there'll be things like that that people will look at. But here's the thing that I think is going to be the most interesting. A lot of people I read and things I read today, and when I was watching, they have Javonte Williams on their team. Use him. The problem is that he's a running back, and that is going to be the last thing that Russell Wilson wants to do. Russell Wilson went to Denver to become the hero, and they said, absolutely, it is your offense, but You have to run that ball. When you have a weapon like Javonte Williams, you have to use him. And they weren't. And I can't decide if that was Hackett or if that was Russ changing the play or if that was designed because they thought that's what they needed for this particular matchup.
Right.
Like that they had better luck with their secondary than they did with the line. I don't know. So that's what we're going to have to watch and see now over the next few games. It doesn't get any easier. They play San Francisco this week. And Russ traditionally in Seattle, he played very well against San Francisco, but San Francisco is going to devour that line. Their defense is so good. I don't think it gets much better for Denver fans anytime soon.
Denver's going to have a hard enough time on the field with opponents like Seattle or like San Francisco without their coach making mistakes about clock management and that kind of stuff. It would be nice if Russell's been there long enough and is comfortable enough for the coach to say, you know what, I'm gonna let you call your plays. I'm gonna let you work with the coordinator and and I'm gonna focus on being a head coach and making sure my personnel packages are set and making sure that my clock management is good. And I have all these other things to do that I'm gonna trust you to handle your business and see how it goes.
And I hope they do.
Maybe it's just that they both need more time.
And that's probably what it is. I mean, I don't think you can write off this deal, although a lot of Denver fans are not happy right now.
Yes.
And most of that angst is focused straight on Hackett, which I think it should be, to be very honest with you. This shouldn't be focused on Russell. Russell doesn't put a punt returner on the field. So, I mean, that's, you know, I think that we need to keep that in check. But I do think that it's going to be interesting over the next few weeks because they have really difficult tasks. But anyone who thought this Broncos team was going to be able to keep up with the Chargers or the Chiefs, they have to rethink that at this point. They have to. So unless something massively changes in the next 3 or 4 weeks, I think that they're looking to the bottom part of that division.
We might have to redo our pick'em show like after week 6. Because I think some of the teams I picked to win their division are like 0-2. So I know, right? And 1-1.
Because that's how good we are. We're so good. We pick them like that, right? We do it on purpose to screw with people.
Watch when they blow up and they go, 12 on a 12-2 run. Then we'll see who's laughing.
Don't forget. Yeah. We're always right. No, I'm just kidding. So, all right. Well, I was going to do it in the hat this week, but we've kind of already run out of time. And I think the girls would kill us if we did it from the hat, because we still have lots of teams that we need to explain why they're going to win the Super Bowl. And all the easy ones are gone.
There's just 2 of us. We might be able to do it quickly.
You want to do it? Okay. Hold on one second. I'll be right back. I do. It's just right over here. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. I'll grab it.
I love when she's got a hat. So if you haven't seen this before, Dayna put the names of all 32 NFL teams in a hat, and she pulls a name and assigns it to you, and then you have to give legitimate reasons why this team could win the Super Bowl. And we've had some interesting ones already, and we've had some easy ones. So we will see which 2 she grabs for us tonight. It'll crack me up if it's one of the teams we've talked about a lot already.
I know. But here's the thing. Sonia and Wanda and Michelle got all the easy ones. They got the Bills and the Chiefs. I'm like the Vikings. I'm like, whatever. Okay. First one, Kate, this one's for you. The Bears.
The Bears.
All right.
I got nothing.
You got nothing. That's not okay. You have to tell us why they're
1-1. They're building with the new quarterback with Justin Fields. They're starting to actually look like a team again. And they looked, even in the loss, they still looked like they knew what they were doing. And I think that was been the biggest hurdle for them. That division is a hot mess with what went on with, who am I looking at? The Vikings, the Lions, the Bears, and the Packers. None of them are 2-0, right? This division is up for grabs. And the Vikings did not look good last night. So I'm going to say that I think Justin Fields is on his way to an MVP caliber season, and it's only going to get better from here. They're going to win the division, and they're going to win the Super Bowl. And now I'm going to drink the tequila in my cup.
Wanda's head just exploded. She's so excited, right? Oh, no.
Sorry, oh, no. Who are you going to get?
That was very optimistic of you. Let me just.
I know. This is a fun party game for people who know football.
Okay.
Oh, and I did have a gentleman try to explain football to me while I was in Jamaica.
Of course. Isn't that nice of him?
It was.
So caring. I got the Cowboys.
Oh.
They're not going to the Super Bowl. Anyway,
even without Dakota?
there is going to be a miraculous recovery of Mr. Dak, and he is going to come back in 4 weeks with a broken finger, all the screws together, and he's going to wrap it up, and he's just going to throw it, and he's going to win lots of football games. The Eagles are going to fall apart. The Giants are going to fall apart. The Commanders are the Commanders. And all of a sudden, we're going to see these Cowboys rising to the top of the star where they're supposed to be. And Jerry Jones is going to do some crazy trade stuff right at the trade deadline to get all these weapons to come in to save them. Yeah. Oh, Graham just saved me. God love you,
Don't forget
Graham.
about their defense.
Cooper Rush will be the feel-good story of 2022. Thank you, Graham. Graham came in.
Thank you, Graham.
Swooped in and saved me there. Yes.
Do you know what the funniest thing is about this segment?
What?
Is that we just got Michelle and Wanda's favorite teams. They got the Buffalo Bills last week, and
Vikings,
we have to defend their teams.
No, here's the thing. The Cowboys are just one pick away. Ask Jerry every single year, one pick away. And they're going to come in, swoop down, and they're going to actually then beat the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl. No, they might. Any given Sunday, Kate. That's all I'm going to say. All right, everybody.
Word.
That's our From the Hat this year. So we still have quite a few teams left to go. So it'll be pretty fun. So we'll just keep doing that. Okay, everybody. That is it for our show this week. We have enjoyed our time with you. We are here again next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. For those of you who watch us on Twitter, I'm going to keep saying this. Please come over to YouTube. Join our live chat. You can chit chat with each other. We put your comments online, like Camden's. Hello, ladies. Hello, Camden. And we will chit chat with you guys. And if you have questions, shoot them to us. We will be happy to answer them. And so please, if you're watching on Twitter, come on over and join us on YouTube. Next week, we'll be back. Week 3. I guess we'll see who stays 3-0, what teams fall apart, and which teams do good. So we see you again next week. Goodbye, everybody.